Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with another review of Monday Night Raw. We, of course, have plenty to go over and a lot to regret. Of course, watching the show and, of course, the show itself. And, oh god, we, of course, have that unsettling picture for the privacy of Kyrie saying I will not show, but there's plenty of other, wrestling news and channels going over, of course, the head injury that happened over the steel steps in the match against Nia Jax. It's already crappy enough that this bitch gets a title shot, but Liv Morgan and Kyrie Sane uh somehow get overshadowed from her, especially. But more on that later. We still have a lot of the review to go over, and that, of course, involves the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, with Austin Theory and Murphy, of course, celebrating the illustrious career of Rey Mysterio after gouging out his eyes a few weeks ago on Raw, and issuing Rey Mysterio's retirement ceremony. They didn't even issue over the past few weeks that it was actually hosted by Seth Rollins. They just said retirement ceremony, Rey Mysterio. He wouldn't even show up on the event. He had his cool ass mask that literally had a patch on it. It was really cool to see. Well, of course, Dominic, that looks like he lost a bit of weight. We, of course, had plenty of Rollins, showing a vignette over most of the highlights of Rey Mysterio winning the big one, winning the Royal Rumble, and winning the heavyweight title. I'm shocked they didn't bring up when he won the WWE Championship. We know how brief that was for obvious reasons. Probably I will review that episode of Monday Night Raw of when Rey Mysterio won the WWE Championship and lost it in under 24 hours later against John Cena, but that's in a later date. I want to do past Raw reviews. I've seen many other guys do it. Yeah, they're bringing up the sacrifice Mysterio made for his career. Later on, Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo show up to try to stop Seth Rollins from trying to disrespect Rey Mysterio. I hate the aspect of why Aleister Black is a baby face to begin with. I never think I would never work for a guy his character literally means you're a heel or you're a neutral character. And for a PG, completely cookie cutter, pretty bland way of how WWE runs storylines now, you expect them to at least do an anti-hero a tiny bit of justice. Just make sure they don't cuss a lot. It's that simple. They turn a premier babyface main eventer heel, all because of a bad Twitter reputation, and they can't even turn a guy that's literally been unbeaten for a minute to just a bland babyface. He comes around beating guys like Murphy, beating guys like AJ Styles, beating all these guys, and he's not even once been in the premier hunt for the world title. He's just doing this because Mysterio was his tag team partner just 2 weeks ago. It's so weird. We transition into a match. That was the opening part of the show. That makes no sense. There was, of course, the bigger thing, Charlotte versus Asuka, that ended in a DQ. That isn't much to take care of. I lost some interest in the show as soon as we had a DQ finish for Apollo's first title defense. Like, you could just end it off a roll-up or something. You had Apollo faking an injury later on in the match, but we'll get through that. We, of course, had the most generic part of the match. Like, not much of Rollins' moveset changes, except he doesn't use the buckle bomb and he doesn't do a lot of suicide dives like he used to do as a babyface. I never complained that much about his matches because, of course, Seth Rollins, as bland as he is, he can try to captivate a crowd whenever he needs to, and he has exciting wrestling matches. But not once I actually see a captivating wrestling storyline with Seth Rollins. That's my complaint. As exciting as he is to see in the ring, he has no guys on the roster would ever be an interesting storyline that would last a year. So they do these 2-week or at least 2-month feuds to try to think that they're telling up a bit of a story, and you'll forget it. Like, you forgot that Rollins even feuded with his girl against Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin just like last summer. And now we're in June. Not much has changed. I know we are trying to blame a bit of the pandemic over the results in the declining of ratings, but that's happening for years now. So they're already at the ones in the third hour mark, even in the first hour mark. They're so much. There's a free version of WWE Network. A free version. You can't tell me it gets more embarrassing than that. We of course ended up in Aleister Black getting a roll-up finish. The counter into a black mass. Murphy and Theory were trying to stop a bit of it as soon as he was building up to the black mass. Good transitions into a bicycle kick, a Falcon Arrow for a near fall. This match was fast-paced, but it wasn't really even telling much of a story. He wouldn't even try to target the eye and try to make it like, I'll do the same thing that I was about to do to Humberto a week prior to tell a story or something, to at least make Rollins feel vicious. Not much about Rollins is vicious in this match, except he tries to use his grasp his face and shit. Nothing about Rollins actually feels captivating, even though he's a heel and he does all this bullshit. And then he just comes around doing Falcon Arrows, 450 splashes, topes, drop kicks, all this shit, man. Like, you try to slow down your moveset, at least do something to make it feel like you're a heel. You're trying to play this god, this messiah, a literal false prophet heel. At least do something that actually feels like you're being a false prophet. For some apparent reason, Humberto comes out off the distraction of Theory and Murphy getting attacked. A roll-up finish after a counter of pinfalls. Aleister picks up the win, but then Rollins calls his goons to attack Aleister. We faked the black there, no pun intended. I did not care. I really didn't. Yeah, there's a lot of crap going on in the world, bro. I'm not trying to go political in this channel ever. I don't want to. Because I'm black, they think they could just come around tweeting me at social media, DMing me about why aren't I, because it's dumb shit. I'm not saying I don't give a shit about the poor man who got viciously murdered by a cop. That is terrible. Obviously, the cop should be put on trial. He should be resigned, or at least put in jail for what he did. That's an awful thing. But that takes lawyers, politicians. Obviously, what a community can do. That could be so peaceful and be taken briefly. You actually get rights, you get justice, you do all that shit that cause change in the world. Yet, these people become like looters, dumbasses, breaking shit. I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't think that's worth my content going by. I see a lot of YouTubers that I see, or a lot of other figures that I see talking about this, and it's like it's a waste of energy. It really is a waste of energy. Because people are dumb. These are the same people who believe in communism still. To this day. To this day. And some people countries that even believe in communism, they end up either separating from the country that believes still in the government that completely fades, and so do their resources that still have to believe in militia, or ended up in starvation, i.e. Russia back in the 40s. Yeah. So we don't want that. I don't care about this. Hopefully these small businesses turn out okay. But that's a bit of a side note. Anything else I have a side rant for later. Kevin Owens versus Apollo Crews for the United States Championship. Why choose Kevin Owens? I guess because they formed a kind of an allegiance. Kevin Owens did end up thinking that it was a... They have such a remote crowd, because of course these are WWE employees being a remote crowd. Going woo, and whenever the babyface says something, they'll applaud. It's so stupid to me. It's so corny, and it feels so robotic. And these are wrestlers, so they can't even turn their brain off and try to say something insulting or say something funny. So you just have these remote crowds supposed to be boo when the heel comes, yay when the babyface comes, and it's so gay. It feels less organic. And you can't even ask these guys to turn your brain off, feel like you're watching a real episode of Monday Night Raw. It feels so dumb. It feels insulting to everybody's intelligence. And you can see why not a lot of fans, not even even reviewers that reviewed this just a few hours before Raw was off the air, they felt no energy in their review. It was this piss poor. They had 2 false finishes on Raw. One ended in a DQ, then in an impromptu tag team match. That was Apollo Crews and Kevin Owens. We had counters, super kicks, a bit of they were calling out that Kevin Owens would be, of course, still would be suffering that ankle injury after his Angel Garza match from last week. If Angel Garza pinned Kevin Owens, why isn't Garza getting a title shot for next week on Raw? Except it's Kevin Owens, because I guess they're friends, even though they only tagged once? Because you're babyface doesn't mean you ally with everyone. That makes no sense. There was a fake hit to the groin that even though Apollo was selling to the groin and then it went for a surprise shot on Kevin Owens that ended up in a brawl from the outside. We had an awkward commercial break. We had awkward transitions for a majority of the show. Super kick, pop-up powerbomb that got into a near fall. It's like they're trying to sell off Apollo Crews to be strong, even though Kevin Owens is like a former Universal Champion. So I'm shocked that he's not even the prime #1 contender for a world title, that he even beat the previous #1 contender, Seth Rollins, back at Mania. So I'm shocked that this doesn't issue him for a title shot. The mid-card is dumb. I can understand like why a limit of guys are even in the show. It's just so dumb. It really is dumb, man. It ends up with it ending off a DQ after it looks like a near finish and Kevin Owens was about to win it. Garza and Andrade came. This obviously, I didn't want to go into the night because this is like Charlie Caruso was about to get herself wet after Garza saying he's doing whatever he can to win. And like her getting a girl he wants, and they were trying to tease like Garza probably going to smash Charlie Caruso. And I think and they were trying to tease over the past several months that Garza and Zelina Vega were going out, even though they try to fake it as being completely professional. And Zelina, has heat with fake heat with Charlie Caruso, just rips off the rose Garza gives her. Then we just went into them interrupting the match, even though it doesn't matter win or lose because they're both babyface. So I don't know why they would stop the match. And plus, we have weeks until the pay-per-view. And I don't understand the logic that goes into it. And it's just so dumb. This is such a terrible episode of Raw already. And I'm only 2 matches in. Then we just went into an impromptu tag team match. Out of nowhere. You know when you hate those types of Raws that always, like, they'll end it in a DQ? Like, the same thing happened, and this one pissed me off the most. They did a unification match back after the Raw after WrestleMania 35, and they were already doing Kofi Kingston, that was the WWE champion at the time. And against already Seth Rollins for a title unification match. Even though they know they weren't going to go in the finish, they already had the OC coming in to interrupt the match to begin with, because they know they weren't going to have a title unification match, even though how irrelevant now, how dumb the brand split was at this point. That the wildcard effect is already in place, so there was no point. Then they had a tag team match. Now it came into Kevin Owens selling the ankle injury after Garza came with a sneak attack. Hammerlock DT, a couple flips, the spin out powerbomb. The babyfaces picked up the finish, and they were completely cool after Apollo literally faked an injury so we can try to get a rise on Kevin Owens. So they just strictly make it no individuality placed on any babyface or heel. The only positive was Zelina Vega, because Zelina Vega. Next up, we have bowling segment involving the Street Profits again doing. I don't care, cause like why would you do this with a non-established tag team? Like these are non-established superstars, Street Profits haven't been here for over a year. So haven't the Viking Raiders. And yet, this is building up to Backlash pay-per-view. I care less about these segments. Because at least when it was Matt Hardy and MVP, these guys already had a season feud that's been going on for months. And then they transitioned into a tag team. And then they transitioned into these guys being better than each other. And for the U.S. title, then the tag team titles blew up to a match for the U.S. title until Matt Hardy did win the U.S. title in the future. All that for build-up. We've been getting this for weeks and weeks. And I care less because they say that they do the same joke. Either one of them do better, one of them do something dumb, Ibar gets saved because he's cute, and Eric not so much. So it looks like Ibar and Eric and Ibar win the bowling challenge, and I think they're gonna break it off the final episode of Raw before Backlash. Because now it's 2-2. I care less about this. I really do. It was corny anyway. Because they're Vikings, they keep shouting skull, 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 goat milk, even though that looks like fucking oatmeal. I hate these segments. It can probably be like, oh, this demographic isn't for you. This is obviously for a younger demographic. Children are smarter than you think. Stop going over this exemplary, simplistic mindset all because it's corny means it's for children. Children cringe. They do. They hate shit like this. There's already an older demographic talking about it, reviewing it, watching it. There's barely any kids involved unless the fans actually bring their children to watch Raw or SmackDown or NXT. There's more neckbeards than there is children actually trying to watch Finn Balor looking like an Abercrombie and Fitch model coming around doing fucking dropkicks everywhere. So I don't want to hear this excuse. That's a dumb excuse. For some people, they would think this is entertaining. I get that. That's just coming from me. I hate this segment. Next up, Billy Kay versus Nikki Cross. And I have to say one thing. The Iconics actually won a match. And then Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross have to defend their titles the next night on SmackDown. So that's going to be fun. This tag division's already a joke. I already had discussions and complaints about this before. Why they should have a tag division to begin with. I already feel like this is late cool, except you don't know which one is better. Except probably people are just gonna say Peyton Royce because practically she's more attractive than Billy Kay. Billy Kay came with a thrust kick. I thought that was gonna be the near fall, even though we haven't seen her win a match unless it was against a jobber since she's been on the main roster. Took a powerbomb. Nikki Cross, no one cared about this match. This was so bland and sloppy because Nikki Cross just flails her limbs while at least Billy Kay's trying to sell that she's trying to beat up somebody. Excuse me for anybody else watching the review and they heard that sound, but I don't know if anybody else heard it. Next, of course, had a segment involving Rey Mysterio, of course, addressing about the retirement ceremony and Seth Rollins disrespecting him and saying that he's a forgiving man. But damn, Seth Rollins, he'll be coming for you. Rey Mysterio then had Dominic come around trying to calm him down after trying to go off on camera after a discussion with Samoa Joe. And it's like, oh my god, you're thinking like these are longtime friends. Samoa Joe only been on the main roster for like a few years at this point. He doesn't know Rey Mysterio like that. He's trying to keep it so professional. Even though he was just in a feud with him like under a year ago. So there's like no forced up animosity, more personal questions. Thanks, Samoa Joe's whole promo style on WWE is, yeah, Ray, how you feeling after the suffering eye injury? Plus, fuck you, Dominic. You're built like me. It's so cookie cutter how they treat the commentary. They didn't even have Jerry the King Lawler there. I don't know what other personal stuff he's dealing with. No Vic Joseph, no D.L. Madden. I'm not saying that like these guys are good. Like they should stick to the commentators that are obviously like if they're not good, that they aren't. It's good that they fired them, but at least tell us where they are. It ended up with Dominic just shouting out that you're a prolific man, Seth Rollins, And eye for an eye. This is pretty much teasing that Dominic probably is going to take over a match against Seth Rollins in the near future. I seen a bit of. It was cool to see Dominic do that 619 and then a frog splash for a near fall against Brock Lesnar. I don't know about Dominic's wrestling ability. Hopefully, it's good. The guy's like 21 or 22 now. So hopefully, this guy. I don't know what kind of storyline they're gonna have him in. For the last several months, they've been trying to make Dominic an important part of Rey Mysterio's storylines, like a majority of his storylines. So hopefully this becomes good. Pretty alright promo involving Rey Mysterio. I just hate whenever they do the air stuff. They did this with Shawn Michaels trying to hype up the Randy Orton and Edge match. The greatest. That's literally how they're headlining it. They're not being like a big match to steal the show. These are two seasoned veterans. They're treating this like this is the greatest match ever. Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels versus Psycho Sid. Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart. Shawn Michaels versus Steve Austin. Shawn Michaels versus the... I don't think he faced off against The Rock. Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Instant classics. Bad Blood, the Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam 2002. Not once, like other than Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels back at 25 and 26, Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan, that even though it was disappointing, it was a fucking dream match. No one cares about... No one's ever going to think in their wildest dreams that Randy Orton versus Edge is a goddamn dream match. Are they that under-reliant on their main roster that they call Randy Orton and Edge a dream match? Are you shitting me? That's like an insult of anybody else on the card. And Shawn Michaels like, I've wrestled both of these guys, and I think this is going to steal the show. You mean the year? No, just the show. I think he got Randy Orton on this. Randy Orton on his. I don't care. I truly don't care. I don't. Orton speaks out on the ring rust and how much he deserves. How he don't mind half-assing it and shit. And he takes it like I care. Like, I don't care. He's already like the most decorated wrestler. Why would it matter? There's plenty of other guys that you could have wrestled to have dream matches with. Some people were already wishing that you kind of like, do the opposite of your Legend Killer thing that you were popular for, and be the Rookie Killer, because there's of course new talent on the roster. You've been on the roster since 2002. Like, do something to get younger guys over. Why Edge? Like, I don't mind if you're trying to do a rematch since WrestleMania. Just why it has to be built up like this, it makes no fucking sense. Excuse my language, man. But if you have to watch a 3-hour show that's completely nothing, I have the right to cuss. Because that's a sacrifice of my time. That's not a sacrifice of my patience. That's not a sacrifice of my money. It's a sacrifice of my time. And that's more precious than you think anything else is worth. If you sacrifice your time watching a show that you dislike for 3 hours, there's something wrong with you. And there's something wrong with me too, because of course I put up with this. Kairi Sane versus Nia Jax 1-on-1 to of course hype up her match against Asuka that ended in a quick match because of course, after a tope from Nia Jax recuperating from the outside, Nia tossed Kairi Sane's head straight hard. It looked like Kairi slipped, hit her head right, boom, right there. And because she's short, of course it's gonna hurt a bit longer. She ended up a fucking leg drop. Because it has to end as quick as possible. And try to sell into the fact that Nia Jax is a clumsy, a unsafe worker, and that hasn't been explained as quickly as possible. Literally, go back to my 10 reasons why Nia Jax suck video. Go back on the list of wrestlers. You can literally get a picture of Becky Lynch and put it on your goddamn wall, and you can just tell, oh, probably she's gonna do something like that to Asuka come Backlash. And we have a woman like her that doesn't change her moveset up. She's been gone for several months, over a year in fact, and she haven't changed her look. Didn't look like she lost any weight, or at least changed her wrestling moveset a bit. And then she comes around injuring a woman twice on Raw. And these are pre-taped shows because of the pandemic. Can't do live events. And you're telling me that Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan stay home? Doing nothing. They haven't been even built up. You have a woman like Shayna Baszler that literally blew past everybody at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, literally had a tough match with Becky Lynch. She hasn't been built up since like the Money in the Bank ladder match thing. Liv Morgan just been having these squash matches with Ruby Riott, and then faced off against Charlotte. She hasn't been built up for a title opportunity against Asuka. For what reason? Why? And then you have Nia Jax is coming back. Only had one title reign with the Raw Women's title for an anti-bullying angle because she's still fat to this day. And becoming unsafe and completely sloppy in the ring. So, why the fuck Nia Jax is even on Raw confuses the shit out of me. And I'm not saying this because I dislike plus-size women. Because I dislike pieces of shit. And I think many other wrestling fans do. And people are trying to second guess that, like, Nia Jax is like, we should watch yourselves here. I saw Brian Alvarez see this, and it's like, you're not being a dick. You're being a critic. And you're a professional wrestler. You have seasoned experience. So if you know an unsafe worker, and they have a rap sheet of injuring superstars in a short amount of time, and it's a lot of names that they injured, you know she should be fired, or at least suspended or demoted to NXT while Finn Balor's there. Have a match with like fucking Walter and Cameron Grimes. It scares me, and I think Vince McMahon is doing this to, I guess, have a standout in the women's division because they don't have a lot of heavyweights. Even though Tamina's on the roster, and she's a fine worker. Sure, she put up a couple pounds in the last time I saw her when she was managing the Usos back in 2010. But other than that, she's a fine worker. She's more captivating in the ring. She actually looks like she can do some moves, and unlike Carmella, she doesn't need to hold the rope to do a super kick. And she has more experience. And she has and she literally has well, sure, I don't think she's gonna reference Snuka in a while, but it's still, more legit than Nia Jax. That hasn't been doing shit. And she hasn't really improved, so I don't understand. And I got a lot of flack for this with only like a few comments. Oh, Nia Jax is a queen. Oh god, shut up, you thong-wearing fatty. And that's a reference to The Rock. I hate Nia Jax. For these reasons only. And guess what? Kyrie still wanted to finish the match while she was injured. For real, you really need to stop. Anybody gives me these comments, I'm not gonna... It's just a pure fact that she's unsafe. It's just a pure fact. Now, Kyrie said, Asuka faced off against Charlotte in the champion versus champion match. Already enough with Charlotte. I don't know why she's getting pushed still up to the women's division to this high standard while she's the NXT champion. But I guess all because she's a Raw superstar and she challenged the NXT champion. So why isn't Rhea Ripley on the main roster? I don't get that. I really don't. There's like no storytelling ever in a Charlotte Flair feud at all. Like, and she comes around gloating anyway before the match with Asuka. But no avail, because obviously there's barely any heat she can conduct, and it looks so corny. And of course, they were going to end this in a DQ because this match had like no actual captivation into it. It ended up with, of course, a DQ just to build up the Asuka feuding with of Nia Jax. After a sell over to the knee, there was a knee bar, a couple stomps onto the knee, and it's just so goddamn bad. I didn't care because, of course, this is going to end in a DQ. Bad. It really is, man. And am I doing this to denounce everybody on the women's division? Just wow. Just like Liv Morgan versus Asuka, Dana versus Asuka, Ruby Riott versus Asuka. Try to give women screen time, please. And this ended off a count out. So when Flair wins, Asuka comes getting shoulder tackled by Nia Jax, mocking her face paint in the mask. This is already a shit show to begin with. We of course had a backstage segment involving Lana. This was earlier in the show, involving Lana trying to discuss Bobby Lashley's affiliation with him. Like, why are you trying to sabotage my husband even though he's getting him to a title opportunity while you've been just trying to disrespect your ex-husband? Kayfabe ex-husband. But still to this point, I don't care. I don't care. This is so bad to just see Lana denounced to this moment. Like, being a hot Russian manager into a goddamn side piece. And at least MVP, always the professional type, just gets slapped after calling both of them washed up superstars. So, yeah. Ends up in an obvious slap to the face. We fade to black. And of course, we have the main event. That was MVP versus Drew McIntyre. And yes, this would end up in McIntyre winning. Clothesline, a big boot. Barely any... I didn't care about the interview we had with Charlie Caruso afterwards, because it's just the same thing. I want to burn anybody who made the shirt talk less Claymore. Yeah. I, I, I would rather care less. Bicycle kick. He obviously did that running knee up to a big boot. A bicycle kick before. I think there was a counter into the. I don't think there was a counter into Future Shock. There was as soon as Lashley was coming to help out with MVP, Lana came over. There was a running plancha over the top. That was a cool thing to see because, of course, McIntyre is super athletic. So, yeah, it ended up off a Claymore over a distraction from Lana. And Lashley would come out of nowhere, pulling up Full Nelson. Then we awkwardly faded out. The show was over because they were already after 11 o'clock. So they had to cancel out for any other show they had in the airing. That was Monday Night Raw. And I would rather die than watch an episode of Raw again. This was such a crappy show of Raw. I'm not trying to be better in any aspect. This is just how I feel. This show just has any lack of captivating anybody, building up to a pay-per-view, or at least building up properly. This is just my opinion, man. If you have an opposite opinion, how you feel about Monday Night Raw, say it in the comment section. I would love to hear your feedback. Just, Jesus Christ, this show sucked ass. This gets a 3 out of 10. No, there was 2 false finishes, 1 impromptu match. At least 1 average promo of Rey Mysterio. it took them. It took 17 months. Like I know the Iconics won their match against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross before their return match, and then they faked the breakup angle. They had nearly a breakup angle until they won this match. Garza and Andrade treated like complete jobbers. Baby faces not having any character. I mean, the only thing that I'm gonna be excited to see, because I'm a big fan. I'm the Ruthless Aggression kid, so I'm really used to heavyweights wrestling each other. So seeing Lashley against McIntyre is gonna be a fun thing. So that's it coming from the DST show. Like, comment, subscribe. How you guys feel about the build up to Backlash? I know probably for certain people, Raw was not the best episode. This was like already one of the many bad episodes of Raw, but this was worse in Milestone. So, uh, just comment down below, man. This is it coming from DST show. Of course, I have more news on the way. And fuck Nia Jax. Just, just It really is, man. And am I doing this to denounce everybody on the women's division? Just wow. Like Liv Morgan versus Asuka, Dana versus Asuka, Ruby Riott versus Asuka. Try to give women screen time, please. And this ended off a count out. So when Flair wins, Asuka comes getting shoulder tackled by Nia Jax, mocking her face paint in the mask. This is already a shit show to begin with. We of course had a backstage segment involving Lana. This was earlier in the show, involving Lana trying to discuss Bobby Lashley's affiliation with him. Like, why are you trying to sabotage my husband even though he's getting him to a title opportunity while you've been just trying to disrespect your ex-husband? Kayfabe ex-husband. But still to this point, I don't care. I don't care. This is so bad to just see Lana denounced to this moment. Like, being a hot Russian manager into a goddamn side piece, and at least MVP, always the professional type, just gets slapped after calling both of them washed up superstars. So, yeah, ends up in an obvious slap to the face. We fade to black, and of course, we have the main event. That was MVP versus Drew McIntyre. And yes, this would end up in McIntyre winning. Clothesline, a big boot. Barely any. I didn't care about the interview he had with Charlie Caruso afterwards because it's just the same thing. I want to burn anybody who made the shirt talk less Claymore. Yeah. I I would rather care less. Bicycle kick. He obviously did that running knee up to a big boot. A bicycle kick before. I think there was a counter into the. I don't think there was a counter into Future Shock. There was as soon as Lashley was coming to help out with MVP, Lana came over. There was a running plancha over the top. That was a cool thing to see because, of course, McIntyre is super athletic. So, yeah, it ended up off a Claymore over a distraction from Lana. And Lashley would come out of nowhere, pulling up Full Nelson. Then we awkwardly faded out. The show was over because they were already after 11 o'clock. So they had to cancel out for any other show they had in the airing. That was Monday Night Raw. And I would rather die than watch an episode of Raw again. This was such a crappy show of Raw. I'm not trying to be better in any aspect. This is just how I feel. This show just has any lack of captivating anybody, building up to a pay-per-view, or at least building up properly. This is just my opinion, man. If you have an opposite opinion, how you feel about Monday Night Raw, say it in the comment section. I would love to hear your feedback. Just, Jesus Christ, this show sucked ass. This gets a 3 out of 10. No, there was 2 false finishes, 1 impromptu match. At least 1 average promo of Rey Mysterio. It took 17 months. Like, I know the Iconics won their match against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross before their return match. And then they faked the breakup angle. They had nearly a breakup angle until they won this match. Garza and Andrade treated like complete jobbers. Babyfaces not having any character. I mean, the only thing that I'm gonna be excited to see, because I'm a big fan, I'm the Ruthless Aggression kid, so I'm really used to heavyweights wrestling each other. So seeing Lashley against McIntyre is gonna be a fun thing. So that's it coming from the DST show. Like, comment, subscribe. How you guys feel about the build up to Backlash? I know probably for certain people, Raw was not the best episode. This was like already one of the many bad episodes of Raw, but this was worse in Milestone. So just comment down below, man. This is it coming from DST show. Of course, I have more news on the way. And fuck Nia Jax. Just